What's up, y'all? I got a clip for y'all. Jason Whitlock, he's exposing Stephen A. Smith, and he's saying that you are a male groupie. You don't know Yam Master Jay. So let's check this clip out. Then I'm gonna come back with my commentary.
I grew up with Jam Master Jay, right there in Hollis, Queens, New York. Both of us lived on 203rd Street. He was on one avenue, I was on another. He was very, very good friends with my late brother, Basil.
Those of you that are Stephen A. Smith groupies, or even haters, but you groupies, y'all need to let Stephen A. Smith know that when he starts lying and exaggerating and goes into full-blown Stephen A. Cap mode, I've already told him, like, hey, bro, I've read your book. I've done the research. I'm going to call you out on these things. And so I think Stephen A. thinks like it's 2019, 2021, 2022. Like it's some long gone era when he could just get away with saying whatever he wants and no one was going to check him on it. Stephen A. chose to pick a fight with me. And so I'm in this fight for the long haul. And so Stephen A., don't just go to your podcast, just don't go on TV and say anything willy-nilly, because we're going to fact check you on this show. And so many of you all have missed the point and think some people are like, man, Whitlock called him out for his fake basketball career. And I did call him out for his fake basketball career. But if you go back and watch the original show I did about Stephen A.'s memoir, Straight Shooter, a lifetime of first takes and second chances, or whatever it's called, I read his memoir and I walked you through how like virtually everything that Stephen A. Smith says about his life and background, it's either a lie or it's exaggerated. And this goes well beyond just his make-believe Winston-Salem State basketball career. I broke my kneecap in half. I got a 6-inch screw in my knee. Big House Gaines was like a father figure to me. I know he didn't mention me in his book. I know that there's the Wilt Chamberlain photo. I know that there's this stat sheet, and I know I can't remember. I've gone well beyond that. And I tried to explain to you that everything in his book is a fabrication or an exaggeration. None of it's true. The guy's job is to lie about everything. And I believe he's lying here as it relates to Jam Master Jay. And I'm going to walk you through why. And I would love for Stephen A. Smith to answer this for me. Because Stephen A., I read your book. You wrote the book. You've been very clear. You wrote it. You didn't have a ghostwriter. It's you. So walk me through this. I want to read you a quote from Stephen A.'s book. I believe this is on page 42. And this is where, in writing, he talks about Basil and gives a clue that kind of makes me say, well, hold on, man. Because earlier in the book, or at some point in the book, same thing he said on his podcast about how his brother was close to Jam Master Jay and they were good friends. So Stephen A., a journalist, is reading your book and doing a legitimate review. I know no one else in the media will touch this. They don't care that the top person in the sports media industry is a pathological fabricator or exaggerator. No one cares that you're a plant and installed and you have a hostile relationship with the truth. I happen to care, and I'm going to call you out on it. So here's on page 42 of Stephen A.'s book. Basil and I weren't all that close growing up. He was 9 years older. And when I was 8, he left to join the Air Force, literally the day after graduating from high school. That's Stephen A. Smith in his own words. His brother, 9 years older, left for the Air Force immediately after graduating high school. Why is that important? Because again, I've done the homework and I've done the research. I want to put up the birthdays of the members of Run DMC, and I want to put up the birthdays of Stephen A. Smith and his brother. Jam Master Jay, real name Jason Mizell. This is the man that was murdered. January 21st, 1965. Daryl Mack, better known as DMC, 5/31/1964. Reverend Run, Joseph Simmons, 11/14/1964. Stephen A. Smith's birthday is 10/14/1967. Basil Smith, Stephen A. Smith's brother, November 11th, 1958. 1958, Basil. And so 9 years older than Stephen A. Smith, as soon as Basil graduated high school, he left for the Air Force, according to Stephen A.'s book. So that means that in 1976, 77 at the latest, but 1976, Basil left Hollis, Queens for New York, and according to his book, Basil didn't get along with Stephen A. Smith's dad and all of that, and he just couldn't wait to get away, and then when he came back, he worked in Texas and other places, didn't come back to Hollis, Queens. The man left in 1976. How old was Jam Master Jay in 1976? Well, I know I was not good at math, but I think if my math is right, if I carry the one, the two, go back, 1965, I believe. Scroll back, let me see, make sure I get this date right. Yeah, 1965. In 1976, Jam Master Jay is 11 years old, and he's very, very, very good friends with Basil, Stephen A.'s brother. An 18-year-old is very, very good friends with an 11-year-old in Hollis, Queens. An 18-year-old is very, very good friends with an 11-year-old in Indianapolis, Indiana, in Gary, Indiana, in Nashville, Tennessee, in Orange County, California, in Kansas City, Missouri. An 18-year-old, very, very good friends with an 11-year-old. Make it make sense. Think it through. Take a moment. If you need to count on hands and feet, just think it through. He's lying. What were an 11-year-old and an 18-year-old? Or what was a 17-year-old and a 10-year-old? Or a 16-year-old and a 9-year-old? What was their very, very close friendship based on? Is he trying to tell us something about Basil and young kids? Or is he exaggerating? Is he lying? Is he making it up? Is he being very careful and delicate with how he unpacks this story? Because it would make far, far more sense for Stephen A. Smith to claim, hey, I was very good friends with Run DMC growing up. I was born in 1967. These guys were born in 1964 and 1965. They were on my block. And just remember, and I meant to ask these guys to get the tape of Stephen A., where he talked about he was protected on his block. The dealers had put the word out that Stephen A. Smith was untouchable. You gotta remember, Stephen A. Smith is untouchable in his neighborhood. He was such a basketball prodigy and he was such a good student that the dealers and everybody in that community had said, hands off Stephen A. Smith. He's untouchable. Remember, so he's a well-known kid in that neighborhood. But he doesn't have a relationship with any of the guys from Run DMC who are a lot closer to his age than his brother. Think it through. Why is he lying? He knows he can't say that he was close friends with any of these guys from Run DMC because these other two, DMC and Reverend Run, they're still alive. And they might have to come comment on, yeah, tell us about growing up with Stephen A. Smith and how tight y'all were. They're not willing to participate in that lie. As far as I know, and you guys will have to help me out, but as far as I know, as far as I've been able to tell, I could be wrong. But First Take is basically a hip hop sports show. Has any member from Run DMC been on First Take at any time? But here's Stephen A. Smith allegedly grew up a block on the same block as Run DMC. And just like we can't get no pictures of it. As far as I know, maybe y'all can correct, maybe Run DMC has been on First Take. And they've talked about all of this. I don't know. I haven't seen it. Haven't been able to find it. But it just doesn't make sense. He's lying. He's fabricating. His brother left at 18 in 1976 when Jam Master Jay was an 11-year-old little kid. And you're on TV pretending like they were BFF? If so, Basil got some explaining to do. Basil's passed. He died. We checked. That story isn't fabricated. He died in a car accident. Stephen A., where his brother died, Stephen A. actually lists the wrong city in the book where Basil actually died in Texas. I mean, Stephen A.'s book is just littered with factual mistakes. All to what city Basil died in. I got the records of where he died at. Stephen A. don't even know when his parents got married. He lists 1958, and in the book, he says parents got married in 1958, And then shortly thereafter, my oldest sister, Linda, they got pregnant with her right after they got married. And again, he says, and these are small details, but again, you're writing a book, you're a best-selling author, you're worth all this money, you have editors. They didn't fact check anything. Linda was born in 1957, according to her birth certificate, and she was the first child. She's born in 1957. Stephen A. says in the book that the parents got married in 58 and shortly thereafter got pregnant with Linda. But I want someone out there to ask Stephen A. Smith, explain to me how his brother is BFF with an 11-year-old. Growing up in Hollywood, they were very, very close. I know my brother loved him to death. Did they become friends? You got to remember, I think Basil, according to Stephen A.'s book and our research, I think he died in 1992 at the age of 33. I know he died at the age of 33. And so you leave in 76. Maybe he comes home from the Air Force and he becomes friends with, 6-7 years later when Jam Master Jay is 18 and Run DMC is taking off in the early 80s. Maybe they became BFF then. Maybe the 24-year-old Jam Master Jay became best friends with 31-year-old Basil Smith when he was on leave from the Air Force or whatever job, whatever city he was working in. Maybe that's when they all connected. Someone help Stephen A. unpack that, explain that. To me, it sounds more like Cap. Jam Master Jay, he got in a bad deal. He was involved in the dope game. And he allegedly double-crossed these two guys that ended up killing him. At some point, Jam Master Jay entered the gang world. No surprise, he's a rapper. Stephen A. has no connection to Jam Master Jay, even though he's this well-known prodigy in the neighborhood that had this future Winston-Salem State basketball career, and he was untouchable. But he didn't know Jam Master Jay. It's his brother, who's 7 years older than Jam Master Jay. That's who was tight with Jam Master Jay. It's Cap.
Okay, so yesterday, Stephen A. Smith, he was on live air, and he said that Jam Master Jay's the leaders, the people that deleted Jam Master Jay, they've been caught and they've been sentenced. And this is something that we actually got information about over a year ago or two, when they said that they actually caught Jam Master Jay's the leaders, but now they've been sentenced to 20 years in prison. And the guys' names is Ronald Washington and Carl Jordan Jr. They were sentenced to 20 years, and he said that Jam Master Jay is my dear friend. We knew each other. We lived in the same neighborhood. And Jason Whitlock, he decided to, quote-unquote, expose Stephen A. Smith. He's saying that you are a male groupie. You didn't know Jam Master Jay, so stop lying.